Uh, are you in the gym?
Yeah, I'm in the gym right now. I'm about to get ready for sparring in a little bit.
Okay, so how has the training sessions been going since it's we are just 2 weeks away from your fight?
Training's great, man. I feel the best I've ever felt. And, I feel a lot better than I felt against Dungam Kim. So I'm ready to go take what's mine. That's that welterweight title.
Right, since you brought Kim up, what have you been doing since then? Because your fight, you obviously dominated against Kim. What has been going on since your last fight?
Oh man, I was right back in the gym the next day, man. I was out on the treadmill on Sunday. I always train through guys. I'm not here to beat Dungam Kim. I'm not here to beat Damian Maia. I'm here to be the welterweight champion. So, as soon as Dungam Kim, I was right back to the drawing board. I was back to improve.
Yeah, now we're back on. Yeah. So sorry, as you were saying.
Yeah. Since my last fight with Dung Hum Kim in June, I was right back in the gym. I knew I was going to beat Dung Hum Kim in epic and impressive fashion, and I know I'm going to beat Damian Maia. It's a foregone conclusion I'm going to beat Damian Maia. So, I'm out here to be the best I can be every time. I don't train for specific fighters. I just train to be the best I can be, and that's the most well-rounded fighter in the world, and the guy that's going to hold the welterweight belt for a long time. So, I'm training for Tyron Woodley right now.
Right, and after your fight, I remember you telling me at that point that you wanted someone like RDA, who also had a dominant victory in Singapore. So you wanted either Dos Anjos or Neil Magny. Um, do you think at this point the fighters have kind of evolved from what they were a couple of years ago, where fights were offered to them by either Sean Shelby or Maynard, and they said, "All right, we'll fight it," but now they get to choose their opponents. What do you think about that change?
Yeah, it sucks. It's changed a lot. Guys aren't the same. It's not the same old style where anybody fights anybody. Guys are picking and choosing their fights. They're trying to navigate their way to the world title the easiest way possible. So, RDA, Robbie Lawler, these guys, they don't want to fight me. They know I'm a bad matchup. So, these guys, they're looking for the easy way to the world title, and it sucks that it has to be that way, but that's the name of the game, man. Mayweather's the perfect example of a guy who kind of picked and chose his way, who had leverage, and who used it to his advantage.
Do you think that kind of benefits the fighters or the sport itself? Because now you have fighters trying to get what's best for them. Do you think that kind of helps the fighters, or is it just for the detriment of the sport itself?
I definitely don't think it hurts the fighters. I think it hurts the sport because we're missing out on some great matchups that we could see on the way to the world title shots. We don't need to see these great fights for the world title. We can be seeing all these great fights on the way to world title, but I think it goes with fighter pay. Some of these guys, they're like, nah, we don't want to fight this guy for that amount of money. We want to look for more, but it's hurting the sport and it's hurting the fans.
Right, and also recently you've been kind of vocal against the champion Tyron Woodley. Can you also tell us where that animosity comes from? Is it because of the training camp, or where does that animosity come from?
The animosity comes from a couple of years back when we trained together. I used to whoop him. It wasn't even competitive, so I have an edge on him mentally. He knows deep down inside what I used to do to him in the training room. But after that, I just the little respect that he showed me. He used to kind of big time me at the UFC events, act like he was on a different cloud, acting like he was all the shit and stuff. So I'm sick of him acting like that. And then, a lot of his interviews when it came out, he just acts entitled. He plays the victim role. Everybody feel bad for me since you don't like my fighting style. Oh, you racist. That's bullcrap. Like no one's racist. They just don't like the way he fights. So, I'm just sick of the way he is and the way he presents himself. And I want to fight him, man. I'm eager to fight him, and I'm eager to take what he has. That's that world title.
Right, now just talking about Woodley's fight itself, the last fight that he had, again something that went all the 5 rounds after, especially his fights with Stephen Thompson. This kind of once again went in the same direction. So what do you think? I mean, do you think certain champions at least have the responsibility to go out and give the fans what they want to see, or is it just because the fighters need to just secure the victory to get the paycheck?
No, man, this is show business. You need to be entertaining in this sport. If he wants money fights, if you want money fights, you better go out there and be entertaining. if you can't be entertaining with your fight style, you better find another way to be entertaining, and that's the avenue I'm going down. You gotta find a way to get people excited to watch you fight. And that's what I'm doing. People are excited to watch me because they want to see me lose. The way I'm promoting myself and the way I'm talking, they want to see me die. They want to see me, but at the end of the day, they want to see me. I'm going to do numbers when I'm the world champion. People will tune in and watch my pay-per-views because they are going to watch me fight.
Right, I also wanted to ask you that because you have kind of portrayed yourself as a perennial villain, going out saying all these things against the other fighters. When did you kind of understand that? All right, as part of a fighter, I need to market myself better. When did that kind of come to fruition for you?
It's kind of always who I've been. My whole life. I've been the underdog. I've been the guy that was overlooked. In this sport, if you don't close mouths, don't get fed. So, I wanted the big fights, and I want to fight the best guys. And the only way to do that is by promoting myself and making my voice be vocal. So, I'm not going to be quiet anymore. I'm gonna just speak how I feel and be honest about how I feel. And I want these big fights, and I'm coming for that world title. So whatever I got to say, whatever it takes to do it, I'm going to do it.
Right, and your journey starts in 2 weeks when you fight the former challenger in Damian Maia. So talking about getting the fights itself, do you think Maia has taken a lot of time, being the respectful guy that he is? Do you think he kind of missed the boat in getting the title fight at least a couple of fights before he faced Woodley?
Yeah, definitely, man. He should have been fighting for the world title when he was on his 5-fight win streak, let alone 8 tournaments. But that goes to show that that's not what the UFC is looking for, and that's not what anybody wants to see. Yeah, it's cool to be respectful, and it's cool to be humble in life. Like that's how you should be in life. But with this sport, no, you shouldn't. When you go to the weigh-ins, when you're in the fight day, no one wants to see two guys. Oh, hey, how's it going? Let's fight. Like, oh, beautiful, yes, bow and stuff. No, they want to see that animosity. They want to see each other in each other's face. They want to get excited at the weigh-ins. The guys are pushing and shoving, and they can't wait to see the fight the next day. But that's where Damian Maia dropped the ball. So all respect to him and his skill, what he's done. But he could have went a different way and had a world title shot a lot sooner.
Right, now talking about the stylistic similarities, he fought a wrestler against Woodley previously. He's going to fight a wrestler in you. What do you think? I mean, you obviously said that you don't prepare especially for one fighter. But what do you think has to be done to face someone like Damian Maia, who has submitted people like Carlos Cornell like it was nothing at all?
He's a one-dimensional fighter. He only knows how to fight one way, and that's take guys down and look for the submission. He doesn't know how to engage in a striking fight. And, I've been training striking since I was a little kid. So, that's always been in my back pocket. But no one's really seen it much because it's so easy for me to wrestle guys and just beat guys up on the ground. So I haven't needed to use it. But, when he faces me, he's one-dimensional. He's going to find out in this sport that if you're one-dimensional, you're going to get exposed. And that's what's going to happen with him. I'm a well-rounded fighter, and I will expose Damian Maia on October 28th. And it will be known as the Nightmare in Sao Paulo.
All right, outstanding. And as you say, just said, someone like Woodley, who kind of stuffed Maia's takedown defense, just stayed out of range, connecting with jabs. He outstruck Damian Maia with ease. Can you also tell us who you've been working with in ADD for someone like Damian Maia?
Yeah, I've been working with some great jiu-jitsu fighters at ATT. A guy named Carlos Antonio Jr. He's also on the UFC Sao Paulo card. He's a very good ADCC guy, multiple-time world champ. He's a 185-pounder, so he's bigger. I've been working with Gleason Tebow. He's a former UFC fighter. Adriano Martins, black belt jiu-jitsu guy. George Masvidal obviously gave me some tips and C-Pod him last. And Dustin Poirier for the stand-up for the striking department against the Southpaw. So I'm very well prepared for Damian Maia and anywhere this fight goes, and I will beat Damian Maia.
Right, it's interesting you just name drop someone like Jorge Masvidal is going to fight Stephen Thompson next. You in this welterweight division right now, you have some real, top 5 guys, killers in RDA and everyone else. With a win over Damian Maia, where do you see yourself, or who do you want to? Is that something that you're even looking at past Damian Maia?
Yeah, of course I'm looking past Damian Maia. Tell Tyron Woodley I'm coming. I ain't looking at RDA. That guy's already ducked me 3 times. He's made it clear he does not want to fight me. And that's why I got a bigger fight in Singapore than him. Robbie Lawler has made it clear. He does not want to fight Colby Chaos Covington. I am the uncrowned king, and I'm come and take my throne. Tyron Woodley, you next.
Outstanding. I also wanted to get your assessment on this. Woodley, after his last fight, said he's fighting a more tactical style, suited to his opponents, and he doesn't have to go all out and lay, and knock people out. Yes, as a fighter, is that something that goes through your head while going into a fight? Just being very tactical, making sure that you're not knocked out, and just force a decision or something like that.
Not at all. I'm looking to go forward. I'm looking to put on a high-paced fight. I'm looking to put myself in the pocket. I'm looking to make it exciting so the fans want to see a good fight. So, that's just Woodley's way of making excuses, The guy doesn't have any gas in the tank, so he can go hard in that first round, and after that, he's dead. He just backpedals to the fence. He tries to throw one, 2 shots around, but the guy has no gas in the tank, and that's why it's an easy fight for me, and he knows it's an easy fight for me.
Right, and now that we are just 10 days away, I wanted to get a fighter's perspective on what you do, because obviously the last fight week, you don't do much sparring. But the week before, what is it that you do? How is your training camp being scheduled at the moment?
Like today, I'll do some sparring, and then I'll do positional drills, We'll work in positions where Demian Maia is very good from those positions, maybe on the back, maybe in put the guy in mount, just put myself in dangerous and compensated positions. But, we're gearing down now. I've already put in the hard work. I was working out twice a day for 6-7 weeks. So, now we're just maintaining, just light, fine tuning, and just, working on the basics. That's what wins fights, basics. One jab, 1, 2, one uppercut, one knee. So, we're very well prepared, and, we're just going to make sure we do this fight healthy.
Right, and the other thing is, the last time when I saw you in Singapore, during the fight week itself, it did not look like you had cut a lot of weight because you were always healthy going into the fight and even after the fight. So how much do you cut normally before a fight, and what do you normally walk at?
Yeah, I don't really cut a lot of weight, man. I walk around at 180 pounds, and most guys are bigger than me at lightweight. The 155-pounders are bigger than me, but, that's just, you're never going to see me miss a weight. You see all these guys complaining, oh, they need to make new weights, oh, they need to do this guy Kevin Lee, oh, go up to 170, dude. Like, no one forced you to go to 155. No one forced you to kill yourself in a weight cut. Like, look at me. I'm a prime example. I've never cut weight. I don't need to cut weight. I'm fighting at my natural weight, and look how good I'm doing. I'm beating all these guys at my natural weight. So, I'm sitting here and these, make me weight cut. Oh, the weight cuts are too brutal. That's individual choice. Everybody has choices in life, so make the right choice.
Right, and you'll be fighting Demian Maia in his hometown. Do you think this will be the statement win for you? Obviously, you've picked up some big wins, but do you think against Demian Maia, this is your statement victory?
This will be my statement victory. It will go down as the Nightmare in Sao Paulo, as it's 2 days before Halloween. I will retire him and lay him to rest in his hometown, so all the Brazilian fans can thank me. They can applaud me. He's going to be in my highlight reel for the rest of my career, so I'm very excited to go lay him to rest into Tyron Woodley next.
All right, fantastic. So one last thing, Colby. The last time you gave a shout out to the Indian fans, can you do something similar at this time around?
Yeah, definitely. Much respect to the Indian fans, man. I appreciate all you guys' support. Much love, and just thanks for following my journey and listening to me today.
All right, fantastic. Thank you once again, Colby. We appreciate you taking the time out, and all the very best for your upcoming fight.
Thanks a lot, man. Have a great day.
Take care, brother. Have a good day. Perfect. So once again, Ray, thank you for taking the time out to talk to us. It's obviously a pleasure.
Thank you. So, sorry about the mix-up a little bit earlier. I was tied up in another call, so sorry about that.
No worries at all. No worries at all. Sorry. Firstly, it's an honor to be able to talk to you, as I said. So firstly, I wanted to kind of pick your mind a little bit and understand what the difference is, what the major big difference is for you from transitioning from being a fighter to being a promoter.
Well, I mean, obviously the work ethic and the mindset is that I bring into being a promoter. It's exactly the same kind of mindset as a fighter, and like I've done my whole life, everything that I do in my life, it always reverts back into my fighting. So if I'm dealing with an issue that I need, confirmation on, I'd always relate it back to fighting. And so in this case, it's exactly the same thing. The mindset, how I approach promoting and working with, obviously so many athletes and so many other people that I deal with, not only with my team, but also managers and fighters and whatnot. I approach it with exactly the same way as I do when I'm in training camp.
Right, and what have been the biggest challenges been for you so far? Because you're obviously a decorated kickboxer, mixed martial artist boxer, and now you're a promoter. You've been in the business for a while now. So what have been the major challenges, hurdles for you when you made this jump?
The main challenges, it's probably, like I said from the get-go, our biggest challenge is challenging ourselves. Obviously the media we're talking about, when we first started, not everybody, but some people would ask questions like, "Oh, so are you going to be in competition with the UFC or this promotion or that promotion?" And I'm like, why? It's like, just like from my martial arts upbringing, it's about paying respects to those who came before you, and the UFC had done a tremendous job in promoting the sport, and so. For us, it's always continuing to challenge ourselves, because I feel the more we do that, the more we're going to get better by, correcting the mistakes that we make, by doing something, trying new things and whatnot. So, I think that's. I don't think I don't think there's anything more challenging than. Getting ready for battle in the cage or the ring, outside of being in the war zone. You know what I mean? So
yes.
Everything else in terms of being a promoter, that's something that you deal with, and that's something that I feel it's easy to deal with.
Right.
Because after going through, training camp and then get injured and then recover and then this and then that. That this is kind of like a walk in the park.
Right. So from an athlete's perspective, how do you think the business has changed or evolved, the sport of mixed martial arts primarily, from your fighting days to what it is now?
Well, obviously, there's just like what we've done here at Professional Fighters League. We in the last couple of shows we implemented the ref cam again. And so for us, we're trying new things. The sport in itself, it continues to grow. I train 6 days a week. I'm, in there maybe grappling once a week, and sometimes, if I'm busy with coaching, then that's what I'm doing. But I'm in there sparring 3 times a week, and so I see the growth in the sport. With all the athletes, all the fighters, everybody nowadays knows how to defend a takedown. Everybody knows how to take somebody down. Everybody knows how to defend submissions. Everybody knows how to strike. So the game is fully complete now, and obviously the growth of the game continues to grow. But then I said this in the beginning of starting. The World Series, which is now Professional Fighters League, that the great thing about our sport of MMA is that there's so much talent pool to pull from. We're not talking about just kickboxing or boxing, where you only pull from boxers or you only pull from kickboxers. MMA, you pull from judo players, from jiu-jitsu players, from boxers, from kickboxers, from karate, from kung fu, from all walks of martial arts. And so the sport and the talent pool is going to continue to grow, and I think we're just we haven't even hit the best of the best times of MMA. I think that's still, or should I say, the peak of MMA. MMA is still growing.
Right, absolutely. Now talking about WSOF, now obviously as Professional Fighters League, so far the organization is concerned. You obviously started this with a unique vision, something that was not available at that time in the world. And in the past 5 years alone, WSOF or PFL has garnered so much attention, so much fan base. What do you
Right.
attest this success to just in the 4 to 5 years that it has been in existence?
I think it's really boils down to the team and the fighters, and because we can put a whole team together, but unless fighters are willing to step in there and willing to put it on the line, uh, really doesn't make any doesn't allow you to grow. But fortunately for us, we put an amazing team together, and the fighters that we signed were absolutely, some of the best in the world. And so I think that really kind of helped um, the whole promotion uh, put together. And so, I mean, one of the questions I remember going back 5.5 years ago, 6 years ago, was what makes you think that there's a need for another promotion? And I'm like, well, all you got to do is look at my roster. And I had Anthony Johnson, John Fitch, Jake Shields, Josh Berkman, Tyrone Spong. I mean, there was a lot of big names that was available and that were signed to us. And so um, that just answers the question. You know what I mean? And listen, I'm very thankful, and I thank the good Lord every day that I wake up every morning and do what I love to do. And this is what I love to do. Martial arts is my life. I eat, breathe martial arts, and so I'm very blessed to be able to do something that I love to do.
Right, fantastic. So the other challenge that we have seen that WSOF or you as a promoter have faced is the rebranding itself. When WSOF kind of shifted to Professional Fighters League, and people initially had little doubts how it
Right.
was going to go forward, what would the new rules be, or something like that. So, since it's a challenging step, what made you take up this decision to go from WSOF to PFL?
Well, some of our new partners also love the format of a league, and so this was what I wanted to start World Series with. And due to certain factors that didn't fall into place, we ended up, pulling back on that. And now that I have new partners or new partners added to the team, they see the benefit in putting this whole league together. And obviously for us, when you say there's a lot of skeptical in terms of people and fans, well, and media, that's normal to me because we started with series and that's exactly what's the attitude. And look what we did in 5 years. And although, listen, there's still a lot of room to grow and a lot of learning to do, but that's part of anything in life, whether it's a
Right.
business, whether it's your life, whether it's sports or whatever you do. And so for me, it's just a matter of us putting everything together and start 2018 with a big season that would crown champions and millionaires within that year. So it's a fun process, and I'm truly blessed, like I said, to be able to do what I do, but at the same time, truly blessed to have the partners that I have. They're great people, and they also see, the vision, and they see how the sport can continue to grow.
Right, now talking about the PFL season itself, for the uninitiated, because has already put on two events, the next event is going to be in November, but the season is going to start in January 2018. So, can you also describe for the Indian fans how the PFL season would unfold?
Well, just like the NFL, NBA, baseball, you name it. It'd be a very similar format where there's going to be a regular season where fighters will fight. And I believe that 2018 would be 12 fighters per division. And of course, we'll change that as we move into 2019 to 16. But the 12 fighters then will fight each other in the regular season. They will accumulate points to get into the playoffs. Now, in the playoffs, whoever has the highest point, or shall I say, the highest 8 scoring points would be the 8 guys that would be in the finals. And then that finals in the playoffs is a one-night tournament where the quarterfinals and the semifinals will be fought out. And whoever the finalists are then will meet a month and a half to 2 months later at Madison Square Garden for the finals for the championship bout and $1 million.
Right. Now they also the second thing that was highlighted in the mail. There were 2 main things. One would be that the fighters would fight at least 3 times in a year, and that they would get a paycheck every month. So can you just dwell on how that would come about for the fighters as well?
That is correct. The fighters will obviously get paid their show and win. And then the team have also decided to put in a monthly stipend where the fighters will make, a monthly salary throughout the regular season. And we came up with this because we know there's a lot of fighters that make 10 and 10 or something like that, and 12 and 12, and a little bit of something helps. And
right.
Whether it's a car payment or a mortgage payment or a rent payment or anything like that, little things help. And so, listen, I understand it. I came up in the rankings just like everybody else, making next to nothing. You know what I mean? And so,
right.
Until I got into, to the top level of K1, where I was making hundreds of thousands of dollars per fight, it's a struggle, and it's tough when you gotta put in time for training camp, let alone think about the bills that needs to be paid. And so the team were putting this together and thought that would help a lot. And obviously every fighter that I've spoken to appreciates that, because the littlest things sometimes can be the biggest things.
Right. Now it's interesting that you said that, because I was going to ask you what were your biggest reservations while kind of changing from WSOF to the new format, and what were the initial reactions from the fighters themselves when they reached out to you?
Everybody was up for it. Everybody kind of liked the idea. Everybody. The one thing that that I got from fighters that was a concern with the beginnings of World Series of Fighting and right throughout, is that they weren't fighting enough. And so when you got over 100 guys on your rosters and you only have 8 to 10 shows a year, that's not enough. And where the season will actually allow them to fight, I believe the minimum of 3 times a year, maximum is 6 to 7 times a year. So that eliminates that, and that was one of the biggest concerns for fighters, was that would they fight enough, and the season definitely provides all that.
Right, understood. Now I just have to ask you from the perspective of the Indian fighters. I know for a fact that there were a few Indian fighters that fought on WSOF Global, but is India a market for you going forward? Because now we have the UFC trying to enter the Indian market. Would India be a market for you going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely something that, now just sort of, to clarify something, WSOF Global has nothing to do with World Series of Fighting.
Right,
that was a complete separate entity, and I don't know what they're doing right now. I believe the last time I spoke to the guy that was doing their matchmaking, Darren, he didn't think that they were going to last too long, because they didn't have any shows left, and they hadn't booked anything. So I don't know where they're going, but so that we understand and the viewers understand that World Series of Fighting has nothing to do with WSOF Global. That being said, the coming back to your question, India was definitely one of the places that we talked about, and I believe what was it, IFL or something or rather that was there.
Sorry, can you repeat that again?
What's the name of the league that
Super Fight League.
Super Fight League, that's right. Is that still happening? Is that still going? Because I believe at one point they didn't have any shows.
No, they didn't. I mean, it's going on. I mean, it's just one off a year or something.
Right. Yeah, and so you know, and matter of fact, I was contacted by one of their staff members, and I can't remember now because it was probably about 4 years ago, and then I never heard back from them. But
okay.
Yeah, definitely. Listen, India's a big market as well, so I think it's just a matter of time. Obviously, the first couple of years for us, our focus would be here in the U.S.
Right.
And we would have fighters from all over the world.
Right.
But yeah, the first couple of years, I think it would be ideal for us to just focus on the U.S. market first, and then we'll look to expand.
Right, and the other dilemma that the Indian fighters face is that they have the talent but not enough opportunities. They do not know who to contact. For example, in PFL itself, they don't know who to get in touch with. So is there some way that probably you can help through this episode? You can just help them?
Yeah, I mean, always, you know, they go to our website, which is professionalfighterseries.com, and that would have probably most of their 99.9% of their questions answered in terms of getting in contact with somebody, and eventually through that process, and there's good talent there, then it ends up on my desk, and then I'll go from there. You know what I mean?
Right.
As you know, the funny thing is, as we were going through, I mean, I'm getting hundreds and hundreds of emails a day. Once PFL was announced,
right.
You know, just interest from people that want to be in it and so on. But at the same time, half of those emails are people that are either turning pro or have had 4 fights. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so that's the kind of like the dilemma I got to deal with.
So what is the criteria that you look at when you get the profiles?
Well, with the season, you must have 10 plus professional fights.
Okay.
And coming off a winning record. Meaning, when I say a winning record, I mean, you know, you've won your last 8 fights or 5 fights or 4 fights, whatever. And your record is, let's say it's 12-1 or 15-2. Those are kind of experience that we need. Where a lot of the emails I'm getting is guys are like, you know, this is where the confusion of winning record, because I had a guy send me his record, and his record was, I believe it was 10-38.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And he had just won his last fight.
Okay.
So you know, so winning record doesn't mean you won your last fight. Winning records mean, you know, your losses is 2 or 3, or at least your winning is 98% more than your losses.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Not the other way around.
Right. Absolutely. So Ray, it was a fantastic conversation that I've had with you. The one last thing that I wanted to ask you is, going forward in 2018, what can the fans expect from PFL?
Well, you know, we have a lot of exciting things ahead, and obviously, like the announcement that we have already made with Professional Fighters League, we get to slowly pick up some of the best fighters in the world, and we throughout the year they're going to compete, and then obviously the biggest payday any fighter would make, you know, in such a short period of time to become a millionaire is a key factor. Right. I remember coming up in K1 and that, and you know, we're fighting the best of the best in the world. But the tournament at the end of the year was, you know, the $1 million tournament that we all strive for and work hard for and to get to, and to be, you know, to be labeled as one of the best of the best, top 8 around the world. It's something that's really satisfying, and
Right.
And it's you know, obviously you got to work hard to get to that point. And I'm sure all these fighters are going to do exactly the same thing, and they're going to work hard to get to becoming a world champion, but also becoming a millionaire. And
Right.
I think that's the biggest part of a fighter and the excitement of a fighter, because fighting is fighting, and sure, they all get paid and whatnot, but just to think that you can make, you know, 1.2 or 1.3 million dollars a year and become a champion, it's pretty amazing. It's really, you know, an eye-opener for any fighter, but it's a life-changing situation for any fighter as well.
Right. Right, absolutely. So Ray, thank you once again. You know, it's as I said, it's a pleasure. It's an honor to speak to someone like you, who's been a legend of the sport, who's doing
Thank you.
something incredible for the sport at this point. So before the launch of PFL season in January 2018, I would really love to once again sit down with you and talk to you about what's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, you have my Skype now, so you and I can, you know, can converse back and forth, and we'll set up a time that is ideal for both of us. But yeah, no, thank you for the opportunity, and obviously I want to give a big shout out and thank you to all the Indian fans that support Professional Fighters League, obviously, and of course MMA full stop. So thank you.
So thank you once again, Ray. It's been a pleasure, and have a very good day going forward.
Thank you. You too.